Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome back here to the launch pad, or maybe good afternoon or evening, depending where you are joining us from. Welcome to today's live launch coverage of Starlink 4-11, launching from Vandenberg Space Force Station in California in the United States. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name is Zach. I'm the host here at the launch pad and here at TLP. It's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together. So we invite you to be active in the chat, sending in your questions. Just make sure you tag us at the launch pad, and we will be answering those live as we lead up to liftoff and then through the rest of the show. If it's your first time here, let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from. We'd love to welcome you here. And if it is your first time, let us know first time in the chat. We'll give you a shout out. If you haven't ever done so yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Check out our shop. It is a launch day, so you can save 10% off of everything in the shop just using promo code LAUNCHDAY at checkout. I got our Crew Dragon schematic shirt on, but we are so glad that you are joining us for today's live launch. It's been a couple weeks since we've seen a Falcon 9, and we are excited to see some more missions. We got at least 3 coming up over the next about week and a half, 2 weeks. So we're glad to have you with us for those, as well as Electron, Atlas 5, and more coming up. For those that joined us last night over on Discord and didn't get the episode of the launch pod, we made that decision just based on how everything was going on with the world. So if you missed that, make sure you join the Discord. We hang out in there pretty much every night and invite you to join us there for it. But great to see so many regulars in here. We got Marcus, we got Kevin, Black Widow, Julian, BSB Photo, Jerry, Matt. Great to see all of you here. Let us know where you're tuning in from and what is going on. We got our first question already. PSB Photo, what's the cargo for today's mission? We're going to jump right into it. We are waiting for SpaceX to go live here. We do have the mission control comms open, so we will patch those in and listen in for any update on the fueling. But today's mission is Starlink. This is going to be the 8th launch into the 4th Starlink shell. We do know that that one mission pretty much failed completely, with over 90% of their payload falling back into orbit due to that solar activity. So this will be the 11th or the 8th mission, even though it's 4-11, because we've actually missed a few in the counting. SpaceX, doesn't always count straightforward. But today we're launching a Falcon 9 Block 5 as always. Today's booster is 1063-4 with a 62-day turnaround. We're launching, as I said, from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California from Space Launch Complex, or Slick 4 East. And they have 50 Starlink satellites on board today, weighing 32,500 pounds, or just below 15,000 kilograms. They're going to go up into a low Earth circular orbit at 540 kilometers, but today they're going to actually get deployed at 316 kilometers by 306 kilometers and an inclination of 53.2 degrees, and then by themselves they'll work them up to that 540 kilometer operational orbit. Of course, it's a Falcon 9, so we are attempting to recover the booster today. The drone ship, of course, I Still Love You, is located 639 kilometers downrange with the tug Scorpius and the support vessel Go Quest. And the 2 fairing halves will be attempted to be recovered out of the water, 654 kilometers downrange. Mission control talking there. The fairings will be covered 654 kilometers downrange by NRC Quest. And we're not too sure about what fairings they are using here today. And we don't have a super clear idea on weather, because actually Space Launch Delta 30 does not release public weather forecasts, unlike what we see over on the East Coast for Cape Canaveral's region, where we do get those public forecasts. 142nd Falcon 9 launch. We're going to see SpaceX's 8th launch of 2022 and their the 18th orbital launch attempt of 2022 already. So very quickly getting up there, and it's not even the end of February yet. We're also keeping an eye, of course, on the subscriber count. If you've noticed, RP1 loads complete there. We are just 10 subscribers away from hitting 60,000, and we are just blown away by that. So thank you guys for your support. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button. It really does help us out. And make sure that you have subscribed and invite some friends over that like space. We've got a bunch of new stuff coming out here in the near future, and we're super excited to start sharing that with you. You're going to see a little bit of updating to some of our shows, and we're excited to get that all out over the next number of weeks, as we've been working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and hope you guys will enjoy it. Audio's cutting in and out every once in a while. Good to know. Thank you for saying that. We can work on that. We're probably going to have to switch out this mic. This mic was good for the first year, but was not the most expensive of mics. So we're going to have to get a new one here. But great to have so many of you tuning in. We got Gabrielle from the Netherlands. We've got Randy from West Virginia. Fred's from Runcorn, England. Great to have you all here in the chat. So that's basically what we know about today's mission. If we know the math correctly, this will take the total number of Starlinks launched to 2,187, with a total of 1,945 remaining in orbit, and that there are about 30 launches required to complete this fourth shell of the Starlink constellation, and this is just one of the many layers of it. So we got a lot more Falcon 9 launches to go, and then hopefully we'll start seeing some Starships maybe very end of next year. We'll see. If not, the year after that. Audio's okay? You're fine? Okay, awesome. Appreciate it. Great to have you all here. We're waiting for SpaceX to go live. Currently, liftoff is targeted at 9:12 PST, which is about 18 minutes from now, and SpaceX normally goes live at about T-minus 15 minutes or so. So the moment they do that, we will patch them in, so you guys will be able to hear anything that comes from them, and we'll listen in as we count down towards the liftoff here today. If you guys have questions, we love answering those. You can send those in the chat. We ask that they try to be related to the launch or similar. We know lots of things are going on in the world, so we want to try to make sure that we, keep this community focused on the space stuff. But obviously, we can't ignore what is happening in the world. For that, if you want to follow along with that, go to Discord. You can hang out in our world news section. That's where we're kind of talking about everything there. Bandit, I'm watching this live stream from my Starlink internet on my farm. That's awesome, Bandit. I am really hoping to get Starlink in the near future, not for the main studio, but for a portable option. So we'll see what happens. Don Spears, I use the internet, but I'm also an astronomer who is getting increasingly irritated by the Starlink satellites. I'm torn. Yeah, that's a hard one. As Elon would say, you need to stop taking pictures from the ground. That was his response early on. So you got to get a telescope satellite up there. It's snowing here. You're miserable. Oh no. The launch pad. How tall is the Merlin 1D engine, and why does F9 require 9 high from Wales? Not require 9 high from Wales. The Falcon 9, the height of the Merlin 1D, that's a good question. I don't have that one off the top. Merlin engine height. The Merlin engine is, sea level is 0.92 meters, and or 3 feet
LOX load has started.
There is the LOX load has started. They're continuing with fueling as they do. The Falcon 9 gets fueled up only about 45 minutes before liftoff. Yeah, so about 3 feet. Just short of a meter there, and that's how much they need to get to the right launch weight ratio for the payloads that they want to do. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Bailey, will you be covering Blue Shift's upcoming rocket engine test? We are planning on it. We are keeping an eye on that to see when that occurs. I believe that is when is that one? I know they've been moving it around. They've been doing a few streams lately. We do follow them, though, and excited to see that engine test occur here in the, hopefully, the very near future, and we hope it goes well for them, because we do love what Blue Shift is trying to do. I agree, Nightcat. It's a nice little distraction for a few minutes, absolutely. If Elon's offering to take me up with my telescope, I'm in. I think he more meant do like a permanent orbiting telescope that you remotely control, but we'll see what happens. It was impossible to keep my custom-built gaming PC on a slow DSL and a Starlink. Oh, doorbell. We're gonna just put that back into sleep mode. Oh, and SpaceX has started up their stream, so we will patch them in here just a couple of minutes once they actually do start showing something on screen. But we can at least put it on so you guys can see that there is nothing that you're missing on it here. There we go. If you're just joining us, you're joining us for our live launch coverage of Starlink 4-11. Glad to have you here with us. Currently, we are targeting a liftoff time of 9:12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, or about 14 minutes from now. We'll get an official countdown from SpaceX here in just a couple of minutes. Ding dong, yeah. It's probably one of my parcels, to be fair, so I probably should actually look at it, but bear with me 1 second here. We'll just make sure that they left it at the door. Maybe they're one of the few rare Amazon people that actually rings the doorbell. Yeah, it looks... Yeah, it says it's still processing. Any of you guys have one of those, you know, smart doorbells? Yeah, yeah, it was a driver. It's fine. Elon was calling Zach. Oh, that'd be nice. One day. Absolutely, one day. Kenton's joined us from Asper, Belgium. Appreciate you joining. That was great to have you here. Julian, there was a test yesterday. I thought it was today they were doing... Yesterday they did like another tour, I thought. But I might be wrong there, and we'll have to go back. But I was hoping to watch that live, because it does seem like a really awesome idea. So definitely we'll have to catch up on that. I know there was lots of stuff happening yesterday, so a few things slipped through the cracks. Launchpad, remember the funny landing on the F9 booster that used its RCS to keep it? Yeah, that was great. Hey, Lockwatcher, great to have you here. We're just waiting for SpaceX to start up their stream. We do have Mission Control Net up as well, so we are listening into that if there are any updates from them about fueling. But at this time, we are T-minus 12 minutes and counting until liftoff of Starlink 4-11 from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Do you think they will get FAA clearance next month? I'm not so sure. Oh, and I just double checked about that. The full-scale test firing for Blue Shift is on the 28th at 2 p.m. So we will try to have a stream for that as well. As you can see, SpaceX is getting ready to start, so we're going to patch in their live audio the moment that they actually get fully started here. If it's your first time here, though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help us out. We cover all launches, landings, and stuff, and we're glad to have you all here for our live launch coverage of Starlink 4-11. On your screen, it'll change. You're going to be able to see a live view from SpaceX as well as the live telemetry as they launch, but let's listen in to SpaceX Mission Control.
Good morning, it's Friday, February 25th, and you're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as it awaits its 9:12 a.m. Pacific Time launch from Space Launch Complex 4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base. My name is Andy Tran, and I'm joining you this morning from our headquarters in Hawthorne, California, as we launch another 50 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit. This marks our 8th launch of 2022, second launch this week, and the second launch from Vandy this month. Due to the increase in our launch cadence and as a result of the hard work of our teams, today's mission is the fastest launch-to-launch at Vandenberg Space Force Base for SpaceX to date, having supported the NROL 87 and Starlink missions all within the same calendar month. If you've been following SpaceX and Starlink, you might already know that Starlink is a constellation of multiple satellites that orbit the planet at about 550 kilometers. Because Starlink does not rely on traditional ground infrastructure, it is ideally suited for areas of the globe where connectivity has typically been a challenge or non-existent, such as rural or remote communities. Most recently, Starlink went live in Brazil and Bulgaria and is now available in 29 global markets. So a big congratulations to everyone on the Starlink team for these additional rollouts to Latin America and Europe. A bit later in the webcast, we'll talk about how our team is also helping residents of the island nation of Tonga reconnect after a volcanic eruption earlier this year. For now, let's take a closer look at the rocket supporting today's mission. What you see on your screen is a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket named after the 9 Merlin engines at the bottom of the first stage. Almost 70% of the entire rocket is comprised of the first stage, and its job is to accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere into space. The rocket on your screen may not look very big, but in fact our two-stage rocket stands 70 meters tall, which makes it almost as tall as the Statue of Liberty in New York City. Today's first stage will be flying for the 4th time, previously having supported NASA's DART, or Double Asteroid Redirection Test mission, the Sentinel-6A microflylic mission, and a past Starlink mission. We are going to be attempting to recover the first stage for the 4th time on our drone ship that you see on screen. This one's named, Of Course I Still Love You. The portion of the rocket on top of the first stage is the black carbon fiber inner stage. Due to its coloring, it's pretty hard to miss. The inner stage is a composite structure that not only connects the first and second stages, but also houses the pneumatic pushers that allow the stages to separate about 2.5 minutes into flight. On top of the inner stage is the Falcon 9 second stage. The second stage propels our payload to its desired orbit by utilizing the single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine that's revealed after stage separation. The MVAC engine will then ignite and carry the Starlink satellites to a low Earth orbit, or LEO. Although there is no universal standard for low Earth orbits, it typically refers to orbits that are less than 2,400 kilometers in altitude. In addition to our Starlink constellation, the International Space Station also travels in low Earth orbit around the Earth with an average altitude of about 400 kilometers. And at the very top of the rocket, you'll notice a large nose cone. This is called the payload fairing. Today's fairing is housing the 50 Starlink satellites and will protect them until the vehicle is outside of the Earth's atmosphere, at which point the fairing halves will separate to expose the satellites to the vacuum of space. Both fairing halves on today's Falcon 9 rocket are flying for the 3rd time, and we will be attempting to recover these halves again from the water once they return to Earth.
And if you're just joining us, welcome to our live launch coverage right here on TLP as we cover Starlink 4-11 launching from Vandenberg Space Force Base. We are expecting engine chill to begin here in just a couple seconds, which will be one of the big moments as we get ready for liftoff 7 minutes 20 seconds from now. 50 new Starlink satellites going up for the 8th launch into the 4th shell of the Starlink constellation.
Means that we can load more of it onto the rocket. In addition to these two propellants, we also use the chemical TTAB, or triethylaluminum and triethylborane, as an ignition source. The combustion of RP1 and LOX makes the rocket go, but it's TTAB that sets the match and uses the propellant to sets the match to the propellant mix.
And as you heard there, engine chill has started, which is a great sign that they're continuing through the count. Got a great question in the chat here. What's the vapors around the rocket? Ever seen that before? Good question, Utam. We do normally see it. It's a little less windy today, so normally we're seeing it coming off in lines, but it's kind of just staying around the rocket today. Those are from the cryogenically cooled fuels that are on board both the rockets, so you are seeing that condensation and that venting. There are a few actual proper vents that we'll see as well. At about T-minus a minute or 90 seconds, we see one very large vent come from the strong back, which is that dark gray structure behind it, which in about a minute is going to begin its retraction. It retracts just a couple of degrees before liftoff, and then retracts about halfway down to the ground during the actual launch sequence. But during that about T-minus 90 second or so mark, we'll see a big vent come off as they purge all the lines. Fueling will be done, and they will be ready for liftoff. Hey Toledo, good to see you. The launch pad, do you have any info you could give us on why SpaceX did not fix the camera issue on the drone chips? So it's not that there isn't, there's a camera issue they have to fix. The thing you have to think about is when they're landing on one of the ships, and yes, I'm going to use a switch as the idea. When you're landing on one of these and you're bringing a ship into it and it's firing its engines, you're pushing here. So you see how I'm pushing here and this is shaking? Now imagine that and trying to put a camera on there that's trying to send a direct signal out, and your boat's going like this in the water while you're landing, and there's flames and all this the smoke and debris and whatnot while it lands. This little camera with a little satellite dish is going to have issues sending out a signal just because of the vibrations of it. Now, this looks dramatic, but when you think about the size of one of these drone ships, you know, vibration like this, we're not going to see on camera. But it actually still is there, especially if the camera's on it. So that's one of the issues. There's been people's theories of, oh, just send another boat, oh, put a buoy out, oh, different things like that. And we're going to watch and see Strongback retract there, starting to begin. That first claw will open, and then we'll see that tower structure retract. But that is why we have camera issues with the drone ships, is that it's actually just the rocket landing, and that's what ends up causing that issue. So it's not really an issue, it's us just being greedy is honestly the biggest part of it. We're just so used to the incredible views that we want more of them, and because of that we get greedy about what we actually kind of do have, and I'm guilty of that as well. Don Pierce, direct to final orbit this time. Nope, so Starlinks never go to their final orbit, but they are being deployed in a slightly higher orbit than they normally would. Normally we see them kind of in that 250, 275 range. Today they're going up to 316 by 306 kilometers, and then they'll work their way out to their final orbit from there. So about 60, 70 kilometers higher than we normally see. But great question there. Keep sending in those questions. We count down T-minus 3 minutes, 30 seconds and counting until liftoff of Starlink 4-11 from Vandenberg. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button. Even though it says 69 likes, we want to see that a little bit higher, and we will continue on. Also, we are keeping an eye. We are on the road to 60K subscribers today. We are just a few more away, so thank you guys for that support. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, make sure you do so. Yeah, the plasma also interferes there, absolutely. Yeah, that's why, Matt, you're right on. That's why it gets cleared up once the engine's done and the vibrations have settled down. Everything gets there. More launches, better cameras. Not completely, but we'll see. That's why I love the return to landing site ones, because they can put the cameras further away with better lenses, and that's why we're able to see them for it. Launchpad, hope you don't mind. I have just one more question. How long do the fairings take to land in the ocean? No, we love answering questions, so keep sending those in. Thank you for tagging us on each one. That really does help us out. They take about 45 minutes. It's about 45 minutes after liftoff that they splash down, which is why we don't normally hear confirmation anymore. Even if we're watching a Starlink deployment where it's like an hour and a bit deployment, we don't normally hear any sort of updates for that. But 420 all day, every day. Yeah, maybe. Coming down to T-minus 2 minutes and counting. We're going to listen into the final count here, just to give you an idea what will be on your screen as we go through liftoff. On the far left side, you'll see the live views from SpaceX. Above me, you will see live telemetry of the rocket from SpaceX as well, showing the two paths of the booster and second stage. Once they separate, we'll bring this up after liftoff, and we'll try to remember go back full screen like this for the MECO and stage separation and for landing. Coming down T-minus 90 seconds, we're going to listen in here. As always, here on the launch pad, let's see a go, no go in the chat. If you are a member of the channel, you can use one of our emojis. But here we go. Let's listen in to the final count for liftoff of Starlink 4-11. And there's that large event that we were talking about.
Falcon 9 is normal and expected for us at this stage in the countdown.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
LD is
Falcon
go for
9 is
launch.
in startup.
So we are in startup. Both stages are now beginning to pressurize for launch. And in a few seconds here, we're going to be hearing the launch director give their final go for liftoff.
LD is go for launch.
And there's
And
the
there it
call
is.
we were
All
looking
systems
for.
are go for launch. Let's listen in to terminal count and watch as Falcon 9 takes our 50 Starlink satellites into orbit.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20. 15.
T-minus 15 seconds.
10.
10,
9.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
Ignition.
1. And liftoff of Falcon 9, Starlink 4-11.
M1D chamber pressures are nominal.
Let's go Falcon 9. Another liftoff from Vandenberg Space Force Station. Quickest turnaround in SpaceX history of using that launch complex. The vehicle's up. You can hear those mics down there out near the pad, hearing ignition and liftoff there. But another successful liftoff and some beautiful clear views from on the Falcon as it reaches up from the west coast of
T
California.
plus 42 seconds into flight, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from
Power and telemetry
Vandenberg
nominal.
Space Force Base, carrying our stack of 50 Starlink satellites to orbit. And a moment ago, we began to throttle down the engines on the first stage in preparation for max Q. This is where the vehicle will experience the highest amount of pressures during ascent.
Already traveling 1,300 kilometers an hour at 10 kilometers in altitude. Above me, you're seeing the live telemetry and trajectory of that first stage. Once stage separation happens, you'll see two blue lines. They'll follow
Max
the
Q.
booster and the second stage. There's max
And there
Q.
was max Q.
That
So
is
we
the
have
largest
a couple
amount of
events
stress on
happening
the
in quick
vehicle.
succession in about a minute. First up, we'll have main engine cutoff, also known as MECO, followed by stage separation, and then second engine start one, also known as SES1. First up, main engine cutoff. This is where all 9 engines on the first stage will shut down in order to slow the vehicle down in preparation for stage separation. During stage separation, the first and second stages will separate from one another. The first stage will make its way back to our targeted landing zone. In this case, it's the drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. Currently,
We heard there that engine chill has begun on the second stage as it prepares for MECO stage sep and second stage ignition.
engine on the second stage will ignite and propel the second stage along with the Starlink satellites into orbit.
Coming up on that MECO stage sep, second stage ignition, and fairing. We're going to go full screen here for that. Currently 60 kilometers in altitude, over 7,500 kilometers an hour. Waiting for MECO call.
MECO.
And there we go. We'll see stage separation here.
Stage
And there we
separation
go.
confirmed.
MVAC startup.
So we did have successve main
Fairing
engine
separation
cutoff.
confirmed.
There go the
Stage
fairing.
separation, second engine start of the Merlin vacuum engine, and you just saw on screen that the fairing halves have been deployed from the top of our second stage. We've been flying reflown fairing halves since 2019, and today's fairings are flight proven, and we're going to be attempting to recover them when they return to Earth as well.
So on your screen now, you're seeing on the far left a live view from the booster with those grid fins deployed as it is no longer under power and is just reaching its apogee right about now and is now going to begin its descent down to the drone ship. And you can track that along with the first blue line on your screen here. You're going to see it come down and meet the ocean. The second screen right to my right, your left, is a view of the second stage engine as it is burning and will continue for a number of minutes as it continues to push the Starlink bundle up to its deployment altitude. You can keep track of both of those lines here. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button. Let us know if you guys have any questions. We'll be answering those following deployment here, but we'll keep listening in to SpaceX Mission Control.
It re-enters the upper parts of the atmosphere. The second burn for the first stage is the landing burn. This is a single engine burn that will bring the vehicle's speed down rapidly in order to land on our drone ship. So a few minutes away from those entry and landing burns. For now, we're enjoying some great views of both stages. The engine that you see on screen on the second stage is a little bit different than the engines on the bottom of the first stage. It's actually optimized to perform in the vacuum of space, being able to produce over 220,000 pounds of thrust, compared to the engines on the first stage, which
Both
are actually
vehicles are on
optimized
nominal trajectories.
to perform at sea level. They can produce about 190,000 of thrust.
I got a couple good questions in here. We just heard both vehicles are nominal trajectories, which is great news. Means the booster is on the right path to come back down towards the drone ship. That's an interesting view we don't normally see of inside the inner stage. That's kind of cool. That's a neat view. Couple questions that came in. One from you: how could you tell which direction the rocket launch was? I live in Miami and sometimes can see it if it goes south or southeast. Thanks. Absolutely. It's something normally SpaceX would announce sort of through the Florida launch forecasting. We would know, as well as we know on the inclination. So today's inclination was launching to the south, but this was from California, so you wouldn't have seen it. But you're going to want to watch that. Anything that's in the, I believe it's the 92s or so, you wouldn't see, but if it's in the 52 degrees, you would. I'd have to double check that for you. Or if you go back to one of the previous launches that went to the south, for sure, the last few Falcon 9s from the East Coast were. If you hear what inclination I say, that's what you want to look out for, and those would be the ones you would be able to see. We know we've got a couple more polar launches from Kennedy and Cape Canaveral confirmed, and then we're expecting more of those to begin here. We're going to listen in as we wait for entry burn startup. This is as the Falcon 9 re-enters the Earth's atmosphere there and begins its journey back down to the drone ship. Now already descending past 65 kilometers and 8,000 kilometers an hour and picking up speed, though. This entry burn will help burn that off, though, and make sure that it can enter safely.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Entry burn
And
startup.
you see on screen,
It's a very quick burn.
3 of our 9 engines on the first stage have relit and are currently slowing down that booster. This burn is expected to last about 20 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
There we go. Got a great question here from Jose. What's the purpose of the foil behind the engine? So that is protecting some of the cryogenically cooled areas and the heated areas and different things. Helps just with some thermal protection and everything on the on that stage there. Looks like they showed the inner stage to see the separator pusher go in. Maybe, absolutely. They are going to, of course, I Still Love You, down on the, that is the drone ship they are targeting. Now, we are seeing telemetries pulling out a little bit wider here, but stage 1 is still in the air, coming down for landing burn. So we're going to listen in here as it descends past 7 kilometers, still traveling 1,200 kilometers an hour.
So we did lose video footage of the first stage. This can sometimes happen as the stage is traveling pretty quickly, but we do hear call-outs that it is continuing
terminal guidance
to make its way to our drone
So
ship.
they just said acquisition of signal South Texas. That is Starbase has picked up the second stage as it's beginning. There's a live view of the drone ship.
Here's a view
Hopefully have a successful landing. Let's
of
go
our
full
drone
screen.
ship. We just heard the call-out that the stage 1 landing burn has started.
See if it
So
holds.
if we are successful, this will be the 4th time that this booster has successfully landed.
So you can actually see today how rocky that boat gets, the drone ship there.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
And there's one of the new loss of signal overlays. We haven't seen one of those yet.
We did get the landing legs deployed. Waiting for audio or visual confirmation of that first stage, and there
There
it
we
is,
go.
right in the middle of our drone
Wow.
ship.
Go one.
That
Right
is
on
a
the
successful
money.
first stage landing, the 4th for this particular first stage booster. So we did hear call out for successful second engine cutoff of the Merlin vacuum
Nominal orbit
engine.
insertion.
And that was the call out we were waiting for as well, nominal orbital insertion.
Vandenberg.
So now the second stage with our satellites are in a coast phase. Next up is second engine start 2, also known as SES2, and second engine cutoff 2, also known as SECO2, which is scheduled to start around the T plus 53 minute mark. From there, we're gonna have payload deploy occur just after the T plus 1 hour mark. Until then, we're gonna take a short break, and we'll see you all back here in about 45 minutes. Until then, sit back and enjoy the space jams, and we'll see you soon.
But we're not going anywhere. We're going to hang out here and answer some of your guys' questions as we wait for deployment. Deployment expected to be plus 1 hour, 2 minutes. So about 50 minutes from now. But right on the money there. That was absolutely incredible to see, especially since we didn't have a live view. But great to see there. But I'll call it out again. If you heard there, we heard acquisition of signals, South Texas. And that is actually the two big dishes, I am assuming, from Starbase that are shooting over Mexico and picking up that second stage as it continues on its journey. Those are SpaceX's own tracking station, so that's really cool to see. Launchpad, my mom is skeptical of Falcon 9 landing because it cut offs at landing. Only some of the drone ships do. We've had very clear drone ship landings, but if you want to see one that for sure was real, go watch the Falcon Heavy launches, where they landed 2 of them simultaneously on land. Clear views the entire way from the booster and from the pad. For it. It has happened, or ask many of the people that have gone and seen one in person. They're absolutely amazing. Thanks, Fairground. Appreciate it. But yeah, if you guys have questions, send those in the chat. We'll be answering those. Just make sure to tag us at the launch pad. And I want to just say thank you so much. We hit 60,000 subscribers today. We appreciate your guys' support so much. It helps us continue our mission of informing and inspiring the explorers of tomorrow. And I really do believe that space is better together. That's why we're growing our team. And we love that we have this just really awesome community that supports each other. Why always disconnect? When they're on the drone ships, the plasma, the landing, the vibrations, a whole lot of stuff gets in the way of it. I also wonder why the video gets stuck only during landing. Well, that's because of the vibration. So it doesn't get stuck, but it lags. So because it can emit a signal, it holds the last frame that it shows. So that's what happens there. And we've seen this with other launches too. Like if you watch Starship when it was landing, some of those live views of it landing under the belly, it freezes the frame. So we don't actually see it perfectly land. That's because of just the disturbance that's being caused. Again, yeah, if you guys have questions, keep sending those in. We'll pull up some space tunes as well, and we'll go from there. Robert, hey Zach, will 49 Starlink satellites deployed become a de facto standard in the future? How would SpaceX decide how many Starlinks on each flight? Really great question there, Robert. 49 has been the standard. Today we've got 50 on board. It depends on the thickness of them. They used to be able to launch 60. Now they're down to 49 because of the new lasers that are on board. And things like that, so that does make them able to launch less, which really affects the number of launches we all had estimated to be able to build the constellation, which is why they really do need Starship to work for stuff like that. So how does SpaceX decide? One, it's on what orbit they're going into, what inclination, and what part of the shell. These are instantaneous launch windows, generally speaking now, which means they've got satellites here and they got satellites here, but they need to fill this gap here. So they need to launch just as many satellites as they need to fill that gap in their constellation. So that's why we see that. Daniel, seen what? Absolutely. PSP photo need to get in touch. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely reach out. We are definitely looking to, if you guys are photographers or videographers near Starbase or Florida or any other launch sites in the world, please do reach out. We're looking at building our photographer team, so definitely reach out to us via Discord or Twitter, and love to hear from you and see some of your guys' previous work. Can Elon should buy a drone or something for landing? You would still need something to emit the signal. So that would be the issue with it, is the drone would work, but the signal would still go to the drone ship, and the drone ship would still wiggle, and that would cause disruption. So there are a lot of things that really do impact being able to get this signal. We're just very lucky that we do get it some of the time. Progress on Rocket Lab? Yeah, Rocket Lab's doing a lot of stuff. Absolutely. Only one dish is vertical at SpaceX. Yep, the one that's horizontal, if you watched it, you might have been able to see it track a little bit. That is the one that is currently working on the second stage. The one that's vertical is in its parked position. But the one that's over, unless they're doing testing right now, would be the one tracking the second stage. Morning, Joe from Hong Kong. Great to see you. The piano, I've never seen the vacuum engine turn white before. Has something changed? No, it generally turns... Like, it turns white when it gets super, super hot. So that is normal that it has some white section to it. That is normal there. As a reminder, if you guys haven't yet, make sure you check out the shop. Use promo code LAUNCHDAY. You can get 10% off of everything in the shop. Also, make sure to join our Discord following the stream. I'll be jumping over in live comms, and we'll be hanging out and, answering some more questions and just hanging out as a community. UTAM, by the end of this year, we should see some moon streams. We will see SLS for sure, which will go around the moon. Questionable what we'll see on it. We'll have one mission to the moon this year. And then hopefully we'll have Vulcan next year, probably at the rate they're going, maybe very end of the year, but probably next year. That'll be to the moon for landing, and then probably some Starship testing to the moon as well. Flat Wino live sat feed. So because they're over the ocean right now, they may not be in a ground station area. So that's why we're not seeing any live camera views. SpaceX isn't either during that time. Also, sometimes they just choose to show us the map rather than looking at the live views. But the loss of signal is, generally speaking, very normal. We've seen it when they've launched from Florida the last few missions. When they launch Polar, once they pass South America, kind of the tip of it, they have no signal till they go all the way around and come back over Alaska. Some great questions there. What's the name of the big foil-like structure just above the mirror vacuum? Because it inflates and then deflates. So it's not really inflated. It's just the look of it, of how it's pressurized and things like that. Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the mods answering questions as well. That really helps. Randy, the white on the back was the sun. Oh, yeah. I know I saw it, but I kind of missed it, too. So, well, I'll have to go back and watch it there. They can put a camera on a gimbal. Yes, but that doesn't affect the satellite disconnecting. Trust me, I've talked to them. They've thought through all of these options. One of the options was, well, we'll just put a buoy attached to the drone ship, and then we can separate the buoy before the booster lands, move the drone ship to the position so it's a little bit away and look. But then they're like, do you know what a buoy does? It still goes like this in the water, so it's still going to be an issue. Toledo is their schedule of future launches. I'm 3 hours from Port Canaveral and would love to see and get some clicks and videos and photos. Yeah, let me pull up the launch schedule here. We do have a few coming up. Actually got quite a few coming up. We're entering a busy portion, not all from Cape Canaveral, but we are keeping an eye on it. We'll just run through all of them here. On February 28th, we have an Electron launching. On March 1st, 4 days and 4 hours from now, we do have a launch from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, of an Atlas V launching from Slick 41. We then, on March 3rd, have a Starlink 4-9 launching from Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center. March 4th, we've got a OneWeb launching from Ariane Space and the Baikonur Cosmodrome. We're not sure if that's going to happen with everything that's been happening in the world. Then on March 8th, we have Starlink 4-10 from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral. And on March 15th, we have Starlink 4-12 also from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. So we're going to have 2 launches from Slick 40 in a matter of 7 days, 1 week. 1 week turnaround for a pad. We've got a Soyuz later in the month, and at the very end of the month, we do have the Axiom 1 crew mission up to the ISS, launching from pad 39A. So lots of options. UTAM, do they always track the same path during their rocket launch? Generally speaking, yes, because they're launching to a specific trajectory and inclination. So they want to have their satellites always in that inclination, which will then go around the Earth accordingly. So because of that, yes, they are always they have a few set inclinations they can launch from each. A chopper, you'd be too close for the booster. If the booster would fail, it'd be too risky. Launchpad, what are the odds of the chopsticks crushing B47 and chucking it into the air? I think based on us seeing it lift a Starship ship onto the booster, I think unlikely. Catching one, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But Booster 4, Ship 20, not expected to fly now. Booster 5, 21, 22 will be the earliest one. If that one flies, we'll have to wait and see. Robert, looks like 2022 might see the most Vandenberg launches of quite some time. They are targeting 1 Falcon 9 a month from Vandenberg and 2 to 4 Falcon 9s from Florida a month. So their goal for the year was, I believe they said 55 missions minimum, but possibly even more that will occur this year. Some great questions. Keep sending those in the chat. We are going to take a little bit of a commentary break. We'll come back just before SECO 2, which is when the second stage will reignite, just to finalize its orbit and go for deployment. We are going to turn up some tunes, but keep sending in your questions. We'll be answering them in the chat, and then I will be back in just a little bit of time. But stay with us right here on the launch pad as we continue our live launch and deployment coverage of Starlink 4-11. Stay with us. And if you're hanging out with us here, you're watching as we monitor Starlink 4-11 on its way to its deployment. We're still about 30 minutes away from deployment actually occurring, but I wanted to jump on, just give a quick update and say, Ryan, thank you so much for your continued support, and thank you for that super chat. Congrats on hitting 60K subscribers, Zach. I'm loving the channel and consistent coverage. Thank you so much. You've supported us from the early days, and I appreciate that so much. It helps us be able to continue doing what we're doing, and keep doing our mission of inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow. So thank you for being part of this community. And 60K subscribers, actually, like, really crazy that we've hit that number. 100K by the end of the year. What do you guys think? Maybe stretch goal? We'll see what happens, but we are grateful for each and every one of the people that are here. They're the right people, and we're just so grateful for this amazing community. Wow, there's mic money. There's a few other things we'll be buying first, but we'll definitely look into maybe doing some upgrading to the mic. We'll see. But yeah, thank you so much, Ryan. That absolutely blows me away, and thank you guys for being here. Right now, the second stage is carrying 50 Starlink satellites over the ocean. We currently aren't seeing any live views because there is obviously no ground stations in the middle of the ocean, which is why none of the telemetry is being updated. It is kind of frozen. That altitude is changing as it works its way up to its deployment altitude above 312 to 307 kilometers circle. That is why we see that second stage burn coming up here, probably about 8 minutes or so. So we're going to continue with a little bit of a commentary break, and then we'll be back just in time for second stage ignition. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We love answering questions, and we appreciate any support people can do by hitting the join button, becoming a member, or becoming a member over on Patreon, and just hanging out. Toledo, thank you so much for that super chat. I appreciate that. You guys are amazing, and it's great to see you guys always in the chat. Makes it fun. It's a TLP family in the chat, so thank you guys so much for that support. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat. We'll continue answering those, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes for the second stage burn. By the way, my name is German. U is pronounced Uwe. Uwe. I will try to remember that. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Yeah, let me know how to say your guys' name if I say it wrong. I appreciate that. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us right here on the launch pad. if you're staying with us, we're keeping an eye as we're awaiting the second stage to complete a second stage burn to help finalize its orbit. Currently traveling 26,657 kilometers an hour, 316 kilometers in altitude. They're targeting a initial orbit of 316 by 306, so we're expecting to see that burn here. We're just listening in to see when they update and start talking here. Not hearing anything just yet, but we should see that burn occurring here in just a couple of seconds, and then deployment expected about 10 minutes from now. We did just a few minutes ago see that speed and altitude pick up in its details and update. That's because we've got a ground station from looks like Africa that they would have connected with. That's why we got that updated telemetry. We should be seeing that second stage burn here any moment. Here we go.
If you are just joining us, a quick recap of today's mission. We had successful liftoff from Vandenberg Space Force Base at 9:12 a.m. Pacific time. Then we had successful stage separation, recovered our first stage after its fourth flight on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, and had a successful second stage MVAC engine burn. Coming up in a few seconds, we'll have the second stage MVAC engine burn, which will be kicked off by SES-2, or Second Engine Start 2, quickly followed by SECO-2, or Second Engine Cutoff 2. This burn is expected to last just about 2 seconds, and so we'll wait on that. Right now, the second stage is just to the east of Madagascar, heading towards Sri Lanka, and there's a view of the MVAC engine that we are expecting to start back up.
MVAC startup and
There's
shut down.
ignition, and there's shutdown. Nice and quick.
And there was successful startup and shutdown. Gonna wait for confirmation of a good orbit on the second stage. And so after this, we are gonna coast for a little bit longer before we actually start to deploy our 50 Starlink satellites. But while we wait for that confirmation, I do want to take this time to correct something I said earlier. The white clouds that we saw around the vehicle prior to liftoff is the chilled gas above the LOX tank liquid surface that we vent to maintain pressure in the tanks. So basically, we vent gaseous oxygen, not liquid oxygen.
I appreciate when
Again, we are waiting
try to
on
clarify.
Nominal orbit insertion.
that call out right there, nominal orbital insertion, which confirms that we are in the position we need to be in for the second stage. With that, we're going to take another short break and join you back here just after the T+1 hour mark to catch payload deploy. We will see you soon.
And as with that call, we've got good orbit. We are about less than 10 minutes away from deployment. Some of those sparkles that you see coming off there, that is actually some of the frozen oxygen that is on the vehicle that kind of curl around. We're now passing over that ocean, so we might not have any more live telemetry views for a few minutes, but hopefully we will have a live view for deployment, which is expected at T+1 hour and 2 minutes. 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 41 seconds, about 7 minutes from now. So we're going to take, again, a quick commentary break. Keep sending in your questions if you have any, and we will be answering those in the chat as we await for this final deployment in just a few minutes. The ice crystals forming from the cold. From the oxygen there. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like and subscribe button. It really does help us out. And keep sending in those questions. Make sure you tag us at the launch pad, and we'll be able to answer those. Just to give you an idea, as we said earlier, lots of launches coming up. We got 4 Falcon 9s on the schedule. We got an Electron, we got an Atlas, we got a couple Soyuz. So make sure that you have your notifications turned on. If you haven't been receiving your notifications, don't unsubscribe, but go to your subscribe button, turn off notifications, and then turn them back on. And then also go into your settings and make sure that you are allowing YouTube to notify you by email or pop-up. If you're on your phone, that might be something you have to go into your notification settings and actually turn on, is that you want these notifications to occur. They can accidentally get shut off occasionally. But if you do ever miss a launch, that's okay. We always leave our launches up. Just make sure you comment down below, say replay. We'd love to know who's been watching after. And you can keep sending in questions after launches, and we will be answering those as well. Yeah, over the Indian Ocean, coming up on India there. Hopefully we'll have ground stations here in 5 minutes or so for deployment. We are still seeing some live views there, so that's a good sign that we might have enough ground stations to see. In a couple of minutes, we're going to see that second stage start to spin. I have to get a Starlink second stage, but the second stage will start to spin like this, and we'll be able to see it on this view because the Earth will come into view and spin out. But it spins, and then when it's ready, they release the Starlink pin, and the Starlinks fling off and away and start to separate naturally, and then their engines will take over. We can start to see a little bit of thrusters there on some of theirs, so they're getting ready to begin that spin maneuver for deployment in about 4 minutes from now. Launchpad, are you aware of the Titan mission in 2030 Dragonfly? Sounds familiar. There's a lot of missions that we've been following, so it does sound familiar. Isaac, what was the purpose? They are deploying 50 more Starlink satellites for the SpaceX Starlink internet constellation. Robert, I wonder why the human spaceflight dates so this year will be clumpy. Will New Shepard flights spread out of it? Yes, we haven't heard anything about New Shepard flights. Virgin Galactic opened up their sales to the public today, or a couple of days ago, so we've been hearing about those. They are pre-sold for the next couple of years already. They said they had 750 of their 1,000 spots already booked on their first 1,000 passengers, which is incredible. But yeah, the first crewed mission of this year will actually be I believe Axiom 1. I have to double check if the Soyuz is crewed, but I don't think it is. Oh no, it is. Soyuz MS-21, scheduled for March 18th, is crewed. So the first crewed mission of 2022, I think I said 2021 a minute ago. 2022, the first one will be MS-21, followed up about 12 days later by the Axiom 1 mission. So we will see a new Russian crew go up, and then we will see 2 Russians and 1 American come down in a Soyuz, and then we will see the Crew Dragon go up as well. Coming down about 2.5 minutes until we expect to see that deployment. Should see that spin up occur here momentarily. Coming up on that T+1 hour mark, deployment expected T+1 hour, 2 minutes and 41 seconds into flight. Ooh, they got some power tunes playing today, but unfortunately not always copyright free, so we'll keep them muted until we see Andy talking again. Currently in an altitude 312 kilometers. They were targeting 316 by 307, so they're right in where they want to be, and they do have a good orbit, so they are ready for that deployment. Look, big ice crystals. Yeah, they have some of the frozen crystals that are there are really always awesome to see. Sometimes they'll break off and kind of crawl around. Let's listen
Our
in.
Starlink mission. If you are just joining us, we did have successful liftoff at 9:12 a.m. Pacific time from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. We landed our first stage for the 4th time, and we're just now coming out of our second and final coast phase. On screen right now is a view of the second stage Merlin vacuum engine. Prior to that, we did see the stack of 50 Starlink satellites positioned on the top of the second stage, and we are expecting those to deploy in the next couple of seconds.
And hopefully we'll have a live view. You can see the thrusters firing. That's what's beginning to spin that payload, getting ready for
and there were those
deployment.
Starlink satellites that I was mentioning. Again, there are 50 of them on top of the second stage for this mission.
So these ones won't directly replace the ones that were lost a few weeks ago, Virginia, but they will continue to build that constellation. They will have to do a replacement
Earlier in the
mission.
webcast, we mentioned that these operate at about 550 kilometers in altitude. It actually takes a couple of weeks for the Starlink satellites to use their onboard thrusters to get to their operational altitude. So once we see them deploy from the second stage, they'll kind of distance themselves from the second stage and then again use those thrusters over the next couple of days and weeks to get to where they need to get to.
That stick that they deploy, it's kind of a thing that holds them all together, so they just trigger it, it floats off, and then the Starlinks can deploy. So it's just a part of the mechanism that holds them together. Expecting deployment here about 30 seconds or less. Not really seeing any spinning as clearly as we normally do, and we, mind you, we are on the dark side of the planet now that I think about it, so that's why we're not seeing any spinning. We can't see really the planet, so it is spinning and is ready for deployment. Used to seeing it in the daytime, but should see deployment here in the next 5 seconds
For
or
those
so.
that are interested,
There's that
Starlink
arm.
deploy confirmed.
And there we go,
Just as
50
I was
more
saying that,
Starlink
the
satellites.
payloads on screen, you can see them separating themselves from the second stage, and off they go. So with that successful deployment of our 50 Starlink satellites,
That is that. Starlink 4-11 successfully deployed off. They're using the other camera, so they're floating away from the camera rather than kind of staying with it like we've seen before. But deployment confirmed. 50 more Starlinks off into orbit. And that is going to wrap us up here for today's live launch coverage of SpaceX Starlink 4-11. We hope that you will join us again for another live launch coverage. The next launch we are expecting to cover will be Electron. The Owl Night continues on February 28th. We also are going to try to cover the Blue Shift Aerospace engine test, I believe also on the 28th, so we hope you'll join us for that. And of course, next Thursday, join us for the Launch Pod, our weekly show where we cover everything space and take time to answer your guys' comments and questions. But as always, here at the Launch Pad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. You guys can join us over on Discord, totally free to do so. We're hanging out in live comms. Just click the link in the chat, as well as you can check out our shop. Use promo code LaunchDay. You get 10% off of everything on the store. I've been doing the Crew Dragon schematic shirt today, and we appreciate your guys' support for that. But that's going to do it from the TLP studio here. This is Zach from the studio signing off. We'll see you next time. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.